Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over this quick storm which is going to be moving from the Midwest into the Great Lakes and then eventually into the interior Northeast, where we could even be seeing some spots getting up near 4, 5, 6 or even more inches of snowfall. So we're going to have your snowfall forecast at the end of today's video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. We're also going to have a ton of information on how the storm will develop and where the biggest impacts are going to be from this event as well. Let's start it off with our weather photo of the day. This one was sent in by Juniper this morning. So this was taken 6 a.m. this morning in Hillsdale, Michigan, in southern Michigan. And you can see that they actually had a light coating of snowfall. I'm guessing probably around an inch or two. Some NOAA reports from this area were showing that you had around 1.5 inches of snowfall according to some of those reports. So I'm guessing probably around 1 to 2 inches of snow on the ground. From the picture, you can tell that we do have, I'm just guessing from what I can see here, that the roads are probably a little bit clearer, and I don't think it probably stuck too well to the pavement because you can see, of course, in the driveway, not really sticking down there, and then also on the roads, you can see it's almost a little bit looks like water, indicating that probably some of that melted upon contact. And then of course it was sticking to the roofs of the cars and also to the grass as well. So really cool picture there by Juniper. And again, it was taken 6 a.m. this morning. That's why it is darker in this photo. If you guys have any photos that you guys want to send in, especially of any snow or ice that we might get this winter, send them over to my email address, elitheweatherguyyt@gmail.com, and then just send in a general area from where that was taken from. So you don't have to be as specific as Juniper, so you don't have to say a town name like he did, but if you just want to, you could have just said southern Michigan if that were to be the case, or just a general part of the state, so that we could know where that was taken from, and so we could have a little bit of an idea of, again, where that picture was taken from. So here's a look at the current National Weather Service page. You can see that we do have some flood watches up in Washington. We also have high wind warnings, watches, and wind advisories all up for parts of Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, and North Dakota, and then another area of wind advisories for coastal New Jersey. So those are all the wind-related watches and warnings right now. We also have some winter weather advisories in parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. So this is from this storm that we're going to be covering today. And then we have freeze warnings in the dark blue or kind of purple color for parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina, and even going up to the Virginia Beach area. And then we have some frost advisories from eastern North Carolina down through South Carolina, Georgia, even into the Panhandle, Florida, through Alabama and Mississippi as well. So this is where we could at least get below maybe 36 or 35 degrees. And in that freeze warning area, this is an area where we could get below even 32 degrees. So definitely time to bring in any plants, time to wrap up any farming that's going to be going on down there, because the growing season is definitely coming to a close with these colder temperatures. It has definitely been an extended growing season, but it is definitely coming to a close with all these colder temperatures. Yesterday we had a high temperature of 99 degrees 2 miles west of Paula, California. Also in Fallbrook, California, they also got to 99 degrees. Low temperature in the country was in Valentine, Montana, where they got 5 degrees. And then the highest rainfall report was 6.41 inches in Paradise, Washington. The highest snowfall report was 8 inches 2 miles east of Salina, Minnesota, and also 1 mile northwest of Big Falls, Minnesota. Both of them getting up to 8 inches, and that's in the northeastern part of Minnesota. So let's start timing this system out for you guys and giving you an idea of when to expect some of this snow into these areas. Now, for those of you who live up in, let's say, Vermont, New Hampshire, even into interior Maine, I do want to warn you guys that you could see a little bit of snowfall before this system. That will come probably tonight into tomorrow morning. So that's when you could see a little bit of light to moderate snowfall, and that's something that we're not really going to cover in today's video because this is the initial storm. So this is the first storm, which was all the way up in Minnesota and North Dakota just 2 days ago, and now it's made its way all the way over to parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So this system has moved its way all the way from the Midwest into parts of the Northeast, so you guys might get a little bit of snow out of that. I just want to warn those of you who live up there that there could be the threat of some snow, and then you'll get another round of snow coming Sunday night into Monday morning. So you'll get a brief break, and then you go back into that wintry pattern. Here's a look at for Saturday night, so tonight, and you can see that we have in western Wisconsin, eastern Minnesota, a little bit of snowfall originating up there. It will be cold enough. We have temperatures that are below 32 degrees anywhere north of this line. So for the most part, a lot of those areas could definitely get in on some snow. What we're going to see is that in the eastern portion of the storm, we're not really going to have too much cold air piled up into parts of the interior Northeast. So you're going to be snowing, but it'll be probably at 35 or 34 degrees. And really not at the ideal sub 32 degree temperatures that you would want if you want that snowfall to really stick. So that will cause some issues. And when we look at my snowfall forecast at the end of the day, I will be accounting for any snow that might melt upon contact. So a lot of these models are going to print out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inches of snowfall, when in reality, not all of that is going to stick, like we saw with that recent system up in Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And I'm assuming something similar to that is probably going to happen with this storm as well. Here would be by early Sunday morning. Your low pressure center is up into Minnesota by this point, and it's going to slide on to the southeast. So for early Sunday morning, again, we're still talking about 3 or 4 a.m. Central Time by this point. We have some snow, light snow in parts of Wisconsin, western Michigan, maybe even a few bands of mixed rain and snow into Indiana and Illinois. We'll have to see whether that actually verifies. By this point, you do have some shallow cold air, which is into the eastern United States. And again, I talked about this yesterday, but if you see this same setup, let's say in late December or January, we would be looking at more of a ice storm type of scenario. But because it is a little bit warmer, because the cold air isn't as deep and it's not really as strong, you're not going to be able to get any of that ice to really build up. So we're actually going to just be mainly focusing on a rain and snow type system, really nothing too dynamic with this system. And it's going to be fairly weak. It's going to be much weaker than the recent one, which was the happening for Thursday and Friday. It's going to be much weaker than that. It's not going to have the same intensity as the one that was up in the northern plains. So moving this on, this is right around 6 or 7 in the morning, so you will probably be up by this point, and you'll see some snow out your front window as you wake up in Wisconsin, western Michigan, maybe even through parts of the Ohio Valley. Now, again, whether that southern flank of the storm actually pops up and happens, we'll still have to see. That's something that's up for debate, but at least the possibility is there that if you get enough precipitation and you get enough moisture to move into this area, it is definitely cold enough to support at least some wet snow. Now, I don't think a lot of that would actually be sticking, because if we look at where your 32 degree line is, it's all the way back into Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and areas further east of there. So for you to get snowfall that would actually stick down in Indiana, Ohio, or even northern Kentucky, which again, I don't think much of that is going to actually stick. You would probably want it to be closer to 33 or 32 degrees, and in this case, it would just be a little bit too warm for that to stick. Not saying that you won't see the snow falling down, but you probably won't see much of that actually stick, especially to concrete and surfaces like that. Moving this on to early Sunday afternoon, you can see a mix of rain, snow, and a little bit of mixed precipitation as well throughout much of the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes, and this is when it starts to move into the northeast. So your low pressure center by this point is into southern Michigan, so it's right over here. You have a little bit of mixing through the lower peninsula, and then also you have some snow breaking out possibly into parts of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York. Even if you live into southern Ontario, would not be surprised if you break out into some snowfall, especially once you get inland of the lakes. So once you get away from Lake Huron, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, once you get away from those areas and you go inland by a few miles, that's where you could definitely get in on a little bit of snowfall. Moving this on to Sunday evening, you can see that we have some snow still up for parts of central Pennsylvania and southern New York, as well as parts of the Adirondacks in northern New York. And this is when it's going to turn into more of a higher elevation, interior northeast snow event. So you look at this and you see that some of the valleys in upstate New York, some of the lower lying spots in western Pennsylvania are not going to be dealing with snowfall, but you go a little bit further away, you get into those higher elevation regions of northern Pennsylvania, southern New York, the Adirondacks, the Green and White Mountains in Vermont and New Hampshire, and that's where you could definitely get in on some snowfall. So your low pressure system by this point is dropping down into the Ohio Valley. It's turned into more of a shortwave trough rather than a wrapped up low pressure center. So you can see that we have a general trough right here, and then here's your axis going down through Ohio by that point. So you don't really have any organized system, but it's more of just a wave of energy moving across the northeast. Moving this on, you can see that we have by Monday early in the morning, so again 3 or 4 in the morning, we have some snow breaking out into northern Maine, parts of northern New Hampshire and Vermont, and then we're going to see on the back end of this mainly just lake effect snowfall, which will take place. And that lake effect snowfall is where a lot of areas like Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania will get the bulk of their snowfall. So I will be accounting for any lake effect snowfall that does happen. So again, my snowfall forecast is going to include any lake effect that happens on Monday and even into Tuesday morning, which could definitely add up to at least a few inches over these areas. Here's a look at the snowfall map. This is going through Tuesday early afternoon, and you can see that we have in parts of the Great Lakes, we have 2 to 3 inches of snowfall falling in parts of Wisconsin and Michigan, as well as for parts of Minnesota and even up into North Dakota. If you were to look at the map over there, you're looking at 4 to 7 inches on the GFS model. Now again, whether that'll happen or not, still up to debate, but at least as of right now, it looks like you'll at least be getting maybe 4 or 5 inches up in areas like North Dakota and northern Minnesota. Now looking at the NAM model, you can see that we do have a little bit of a different picture. It's not showing as much snowfall up into the Great Lakes, but it is showing a fairly high amount of snow into areas like West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and then also really what I'm impressed with the NAM is, again, how high resolution it is. So when you're looking at some of these individual mountaintops, you're not going to be able to see that on a model like the GFS or the European, and for those type of scenarios, I do look at the NAM a little bit more. I do think it's overdoing the amount of snowfall that you're going to see, however, in areas like the Adirondacks, in the Green and White Mountains, also even for this little area right here in New York and Pennsylvania. I think that's a little bit overdone by at least a couple inches, but it is at least giving you a good idea of where that snowfall will probably set up. And then if we look at the high resolution Canadian model, we're looking at a fairly similar picture. We have that lake effect snow up through western Michigan. We have for Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia, maybe a little bit of snowfall, especially in the higher elevations. I'm a little bit more curious on whether you'll actually get that snowfall in the Pittsburgh area and areas around Columbus and Cincinnati, on whether that'll actually happen or not, because it does look like it's going to be maybe 33, 34, 35 degrees when it is snowing in those areas. So I don't think a lot of that is going to stick, maybe half an inch to an inch at most in those areas, but it at least will probably snow a little bit. Again, in terms of accumulation, I don't think it'll really add up to that much. And also, one thing that we also have to look at is going to be the maximum wind gust, because we will have some winds, especially into parts of the Ohio Valley, and then also on the eastern part of the Appalachian Mountains for the interior or for the coastal Northeast. We will have some fairly high winds up into the mid 30s in knots, which would be equivalent to around 40 to 45 miles per hour. So there could be some high enough gusts to knock out some power, unfortunately, in some spots. So That's something that you at least want to pay attention to and keep an eye on. Just try and tie down or bring in any loose objects that'll be around the house. Probably don't put up the outdoor Christmas decorations until probably midweek or late week or even next weekend if you're already going to think about putting them up, just because they will probably be blowing around in the wind, and also you'll probably have to shovel them out of a little bit of snow depending on where you live in the Northeast and the Great Lakes. So again, just planning things out, you probably want to wait at least a couple more days until you put out any sort of decorations in terms of the outdoor ones. And then also, if you're going to be doing the leaves and raking the leaves, I would say this weekend's probably going to be your best shot, and then until next weekend, because the rest of that time it is going to be fairly active in terms of seeing rain, snow, and everything in between in these areas. So here's a look at my snowfall forecast. This is going from today through Monday, but you could actually extend that probably through Tuesday morning as well, because I am also counting in whatever lake effect does occur between that time. In that pink color, I'm expecting no accumulation or a mix of rain and snow. So this is where you could see snow, but I'm not expecting anything to accumulate, and it's really not going to be too much of a big deal. It'll really just act as if it's rain. It's going to come down and hit the ground and eventually turn into water, but it will come down in the form of snow. So it'll look pretty outside, but really it's not going to have too big of an impact when you're driving. It might make the roads a little bit slippery, but no accumulation in these pink regions. That extends through parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, the areas around Detroit, as well as for northeastern Pennsylvania, and also the Hudson Valley in upstate New York. So these are the areas where I'm not expecting any accumulation or a mix of snowfall and rainfall. Now, I also have that next area, which is in the light blue, where I have less than 3 inches of snowfall. So this is where you're at least going to get some accumulation, most likely. I have for parts of North Dakota, northern and central Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, much of Michigan, as well as for parts of the interior Northeast and northern New England. I have that less than 3-inch area. I also have that snaking down into North Carolina, westernmost Virginia, eastern West Virginia. Those areas are where I think you could get maybe just an inch or two of snowfall, but it will probably accumulate considering that you guys are in the higher elevations, so it will be a little bit easier for snow to add up. So I'm not going to count out some Appalachian snowfall from this event. 3 to 5 inches of snowfall in the more medium shade of blue. That's for a little bit of North Dakota and Minnesota. There are some indications that at least at the start of the system it will be strong enough to put out maybe a couple inches of accumulating snowfall for this afternoon in those spots. I also have another little area for the UP of Michigan away from Lake Superior. Once you get just a few miles south of there, I think you could get some accumulation up right around 3 or 3.5 inches of snow. And then for northwestern Michigan, also same thing. Lake effect snowfall mostly, and I think that even if you're not going to get a lot from the initial system itself, for the lake effect snow that'll happen on Monday and even into Tuesday, that could definitely add up to, in total, maybe 3 to 5 inches of snow. I also have a few more areas. I have one up for parts of eastern West Virginia, western Maryland, and southern Pennsylvania, or south central Pennsylvania, in the higher elevations, as well as for northwestern PA and also southern New York, where I also have that 3 to 5 inch band. There are some higher hills in parts of northwestern Pennsylvania once you get southeast of Erie. So in those areas, I think you could definitely get 3, 4, 5, or even more inches of snow. I also have that up for the Adirondacks. Just the elevation will pretty much the elevation alone will be enough to add enough snowfall to bring you up to 3 to 5 inches. And then also for the Green Mountains in Vermont and the White Mountains in up in New Hampshire, I'm expecting 3 to 5 inches of snow. And then here's that 5 to 10 inch region. I have a few areas. I have one for eastern West Virginia. So again, in the higher elevations, maybe you could get up near 5 or 6 inches. I don't expect anything close to 10 in those spots, but you could definitely see 5 or 6 inches in those areas. Again, that's going to be higher elevations only. Northwestern PA, as well as southwesternmost New York, again in those hills which are southeast of Erie, Pennsylvania. That's where I think you could get 5, 6, again maybe 7 or 8 inches of snowfall. I don't think it'll really reach up near 10 inches, but that is something that I'm still gonna leave on the table. Maybe closer to 5 or 6 inches in the southern Adirondacks as well, and then you get up into northeastern Vermont and northern New Hampshire, including areas like Mount Washington. I think you'll probably get 5 to 10 inches. On Mount Washington itself, I'm thinking probably closer to 15 inches of snowfall, but of course it's too localized for me to put that up on the map. So of course highest peaks could get above 10 inches of snow within that area, but I'm gonna paint a broad brush and just say 5 to 10 inches with locally higher amounts here and there. And if you just want another recap of my forecast, here's all the numbers on the screen. Again, I have that no accumulation or mix for those areas further to the south. We're looking at less than 3 inches for a good chunk of the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and even into the interior Northeast. 3 to 5 inches up in North Dakota, Minnesota, even parts of Michigan, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, and also into Vermont and New Hampshire. And then we have that 5 to 10 inch region, and that's going to be mainly for higher elevation spots of the interior Northeast. So that is going to wrap up my forecast for today. I'm thinking that I might make a update on this video probably tomorrow if I were to make one. Otherwise, I might just focus on some upcoming storms, because we definitely are not running out of storms to talk about here. We have a few more just coming in the next few days. So we will be talking about that, and at least giving you my initial thoughts on those systems over the next few days. So if you have any questions or comments, if you want a personal forecast, just leave a comment down below. And also, if you have any weather photos, especially of any snow that you might get from this system, send them over to my email address in the description down below, and you might be featured in the beginning of one of my videos. So again, that is going to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.